What is up? We're here to give you updates on our first race. There might be a bonus video where we get into some more technicals on the track, but we have a ton to go over and not very much time to do it. So wanted to talk to you about the experience. So we'll give you a general overview and then we're going to go through our weekend. General overview, the car we were racing was a Spec Racer Ford. We talked about that. I cannot stress to you how enjoyable the car was. It was amazing. It's been so long since I've driven a car that doesn't have anti-lock brakes, doesn't have traction control. It's such a driver's car. 5-speed manual transmission. It does exactly what you tell it to do, which we'll get back to. First, we're going to talk about the actual schedule, and then we're going to go through what happened. The schedule was Thursday. Buttonwillow put on an open practice day, 2 practices in the morning, 3 practices in the afternoon. Then we get to Friday, where the SCCA takes over. They have 1 official practice Friday morning, and then the first qual Friday evening. Saturday, second and last qual Saturday morning. First race Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday has a warm-up Sunday morning, and then the featured race Sunday afternoon. And let's talk about what happened when we actually got there. So we fly to town Wednesday night. Thursday, the car's not ready for our first practice. It just wasn't there. You're going to hear us use the name Rick a lot. I really like Rick. Rick, you might even see this video. But the car wasn't ready for the first practice. And I don't think that Rick and I did a great job of me making clear how much time I needed in the car to get up to race speed. But we don't get out on the first practice. And frankly, just to give you some more fitting, our goal to be in the race, the slowest time you can run is like a 2:11. Otherwise you're just going so slow that you're unsafe. And in the simulator, we were only getting to about 2:13s. I don't know if it was the wrong car. I think it was. I think the simulator is the older version of the car, but we're going to need as much time as we could, and the car wasn't ready. The seat belts were too short. We're doing that. There's a lot of small things. There was a lot of loose screws. I noticed that there was a loose screw on the exhaust header, which prompted Jared to start really checking over the car, and we found some loose suspension screws and some other stuff. We just weren't there. We totally missed the first practice. So now we are out of the first practice. So we do go out for the second practice, but it's almost immediately after getting out, we had to come back in. There was some, I don't know what to call it, but there was some of the tubing used for ride height that was in there. So it's bounced around by our feet. So we missed a bunch of the second practice, go back out. And remember how we were talking about the car will do anything you tell it to? That includes if you, snap on the brakes and snap the wheel to the left, it'll spin out. So I spun out in the second practice, spun off the track. So I brought it back in so we could look over the car. And then we go back out and get another couple laps in. We're running about 2 minutes and 20 seconds in that practice, which puts us 9 seconds off the qual for the race pace. It was pretty rough. And the spinning out was totally my fault, but some of the other stuff, that would have been a great thing to get done in the first practice. So we're not a great session. Which brings us to the third practice, where we go out, we do a little warm-up lap, we run fairly well. I think at least 2:18, 2:19, felt faster. And then on the second flying lap, the engine blew up. Was able to pull it to the side, but a whole lot of smoke out of the back of the car. I just felt a loss of power, didn't know exactly what was going on, but we had some engine troubles, had to retire from the practice. So we're now missing the third practice. So we have a car that I've now spent about 20 minutes in that has engine troubles. Completely understand potentially where Rick was coming from. If I owned the car, my assumption would also be with an engine that apparently had just been rebuilt, my assumption would be that the driver over-revved the engine and blew the engine. And that left us waiting for SCCA Enterprises representative to get there, who was going to pull the data off the car so we could see what happened. So we spent the afternoon diagnosing that it really was a blown engine, finding there's a hole in the side of the engine. You guys will be able to see some pictures of it as we talk about replacing it. You might even see a picture of it now. but blew a hole in the side of the engine and waiting for SCCA. So third practice is dead. Fourth practice, missed it, just kind of sitting around the paddock. Fifth practice, nothing we can really do. It's important to note, so now that we're the end of Thursday, we've only made one practice, and the bad engine is still just sitting inside the car. So we didn't pull the engine out of the car, we just kind of sat there. SCCA Enterprises did not show up to the track Thursday afternoon, but we go back to the hotel and we make a plan that, you know, ideally, really confident after going through the lap footage that, you know, I hadn't over-revved the engine at any point in time. So hopefully we're going to get there and maybe make first qual Friday afternoon. And then the thought is, if we take the full qualifying session, I can get my lap downs down to about a 2:11. So we get to the track Friday morning, still waiting on data when we first get there, about 7. About 8:30 or so, SCCA Enterprises is getting there. And I mean, by the time they're pulling the data out, the Friday morning practice session is pretty much ongoing. Like the video kind of led us to believe, there was no driver error. So Rick starts looking to buy an engine. Practice is now over. But then we spend the day putting an engine in the car. And I cannot tell you how grateful I was that the video producer of this YouTube video, my brother Jared, used to be a Mercedes master mechanic. Because between Rick and I and Jared, it looks like we're going to get an engine put in the car. Going out's a little slow, but we get the engine out. We're starting to make some speed putting it back together. Once we've taken something out, it gets a little easier to put it back in. But it gets to be about lunchtime, and we work through lunch. It gets to be about 1:30 or so, and we realize that even if we get this engine in the next hour and a half, we're not going to make qual. So we decide to break, get some lunch, and then just plan on putting the engine in the rest of the day. We do successfully get the engine in the car, but now we've missed the first qualification. Again, we go back to the hotel, little downtrodden, but we're still pretty hopeful that we can get down to 2:11s, just because I know no other way than to be hopeful, and that we'll do it in the first qual Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, we get back out there, we get there early. I go and drive the car around for about 20 minutes just to make sure that all the fluids are good. And then we bring the car back in, and that's going to be the warm-up and the break-in on the engine. Jared's going through all the fluids, notices that the clutch fluid is low. Rick says that he doesn't know if he filled it up from yesterday or can't remember, so we assume that we just didn't fill up the clutch fluid from yesterday after bleeding the clutch. So they add some clutch fluid and we go out to the second qual. So I'm pulling up to there's a grid where you set up before you go out and do your qual, before you go out and do your race. I'm pulling up to the grid, and because we've missed everything that's officially SCCA so far, like the guy didn't know where to put me on the grid. And then he figures it out, waves me forward, and I go to pull out, and I stall the car. And my first reaction is, oh God, I'm so nervous, I can't believe I don't know how to drive a clutch, everybody's laughing at me. And so then I push in the clutch, cycle the car, go to start it, and it lurches forward, and I should have known right then and there was a problem because my foot is fully depressed on the clutch, but didn't think anything of it. Car didn't start, just lurched forward. I put it in neutral. This time I'm able to get it restarted. This time I can rev it a little bit as I put it into first, and away I go. I get on the grid. And then don't want to overheat the car, so we turn the car off. I have it in neutral. They give us the 3-minute warning, start the car back up, everything looks like it's going well, 1-minute warning, nerves are a little nervous again, and then when it comes to our turn to pull off the grid, I stall the car again, which actually is probably for the best that it happened that way, but immediately I depress the clutch all the way, cycle it, go to restart it. Now everyone else has passed me on the grid, I'm going to pull in around the back, and I go to start it, but it's still in first gear and my clutch is depressed and the car lurches forward. Now good on Rick, because right about that time he starts yelling, stop, stop, stop. Jared and Rick pull the hood off, we're sitting right there, hopefully it's something that we can just fix, and realize that while we are not out of clutch fluid yet, that the reservoir is completely drained. So we miss the second qualifying session, and there was a leak. Didn't have anything really to do with where the clutch was, where clutch line connected to the engine change we just did. It was kind of halfway between the clutch pedal, which Jared had checked, and at the engine in the middle body section, there was some joints, and one of them had come loose, and we'd lost our clutch fluid. And so we didn't have a clutch, couldn't qualify. So yeah, Saturday afternoon, we go to the SCCA stewards, who are really cool. They said that, hey, we let them know that we had missed everything. We don't have a time, don't feel like we're going to be unsafe, but need to speed up. And they told me to watch my mirrors, make sure I stay out of everybody's way, but they'd let us start at the back of the grid. So we're going to go on the race. So literally now we are at the second time on track for the whole weekend, but it is now Saturday afternoon, and we are in a race starting dead last in 26th position. And they wave the green flag, and away we go, trying to learn as the race is going on. And we do. We get down to the 211 that we needed to be there. It felt good. Now 211's really slow. I think the leader set a 154, which was the new track record. So we were almost 20 seconds off the pace. We finished 2 laps down. One lap was because we're slow. The other lap was because our, not the exhaust header, which we had found the loose screws to, but the muffler fell off. And so I pulled it into the pits because all of a sudden I started hearing something a lot different out of the engine, and I was worried about it blowing up. And so race is a little compromised. But we are at least inside the SCCA guidelines, and 211s is a lot better than 220s. So picked up a lot of time. There was some disappointment around the team about how off the pace I was. But I got off the track feeling really confident in that I knew I could do 209s. So Sunday morning, we go to do a warm-up. Actually, nothing wrong with the car, nothing wrong with me Sunday morning. It's only 15 minutes of time, but we're running 209s. So I'm starting to get a better feel of the car. I get off the track, and I'm really convinced that I can run 207s. Like I just know where there's some time that I'm leaving on the table. And it felt really good to go from 11s to 9s. And then Sunday afternoon, we go to the race. We start off fairly well. Our lap time seemed to be right around the 207s. The new high speed did change one of the shift points in one of my downshifts in one of the final corners, though, one of the places I was picking it up. So I had been in the habit of kind of letting off the clutch and doing some clutch slowing in second gear on the final corner. And I over-revved the engine. Sets off an over-rev alert. I'm really scared about it blowing up, so I pull into the pits. And then Rick told me to keep turning instead of stopping. And I really appreciated that partnership with him. We go back out there. We run some more 207s with the pit stop and the slow speed. We finish 3 laps down. But Sunday's race, we finished in 21st place, which is 1 place out of the points. So you get points for 1 through 20. And Saturday's race, we finished in 23rd. Both races had 26, 27 cars in the field. So we don't finish last. We do finish the race, not in the points, but we finished both races. And I was way off the pace. The race leaders were, like I said, running at like 158 to 2 minutes flat every lap. There was a new lap record set at 154 through the weekend. And that's okay. It was my first race on a track, first time in that car. Really, we only got 3 sessions in the car, kind of combined. And it would be fun to do the weekend over again, whereas like, let's say we did 220s in the first practice, and then 211s in the second, and then 209s, and then 207s. Who knows what we could have ran by the third practice Thursday afternoon. Could have been down to like 205s. Felt better and better about the car every time we were in it. Wanted some more seat time. And we're getting really close already to getting points, right? So if 1 through 20 gets points, I feel really confident that we have a really good goal for next session, and that's just finishing the points. The other really cool thing was that our simulator times were really similar to what we were doing on the track. So if we were running 213s in the simulator, and then all of a sudden our kind of baseline time is like that 211s, but it gets faster in the real world than the simulator. It keeps up with what we knew from the Porsche school. We're running the Porsches on the track was very similar to running this. So the simulator for me and the way I drive is a great learning tool. If we can keep our times similar, then that's awesome. The really great news about that is the next race in Willow Springs, our simulator times are right about where the lap record times are. We're only like 2 or 3 seconds off the pace instead of 20 seconds off the pace starting. Now it's going to come down to, do I have the courage to throw the car and correct counter steer and do lots of other technical things and just putting my body on the line? Because there was a couple corners where that was my issue, specifically coming up over Phil's Hill, making a blind left, coming up turn, like that was I was losing time there. So we'll get to know more, but we're really excited about it. We may walk through some of the technical stuff on the actual track and lap times in Buttonwillow as we finish this up, maybe a supplemental video before Willow Springs. But despite finishing at the back of the field, despite being really slow, despite all the challenges with the team, I was really impressed with our perseverance as a group. SeaPike Racing, I think, lived up to its name. Up until there were some moments where I felt like I was delivering the team's endurance and stamina and drive to make sure that we got the race done no matter what, and never say never. And then I was blessed that come that second qualification and kind of last chance to qual before the grid and really getting the time on track with all the clutch problems, the team threw me some Gatorade and a protein bar and told me to quit walling for myself and to get back on track and to go hat in hand over to the SCCA and make sure that they were comfortable with me racing. I don't think we didn't spoil the race for anybody. We watched our mirrors really well. We got some compliments from some of the old timers about getting out of the people's way and doing that on the straights and letting the leaders by and then trying to follow in the corners. You know, while we're slow, I don't think we're so slow that we don't deserve to be on the track. And really looking forward to Willow Springs. The goal is a top 20. And to do that, we're going to have to be quicker. And it's that simple. That's the end of this video. This weekend for us, summed up, was one where we refused to fail, going so far as to getting above and beyond and changing the motor. Love to hear some stories from you guys about some opportunities when you've refused to fail. Let us know in the comments. Check out the description. There's going to be some links to some of the other driver videos. And drive classy.